Hey guys, and welcome to Suit Up the Warframe Frame review series. Today we're finally going to be jumping on that new Prime hype train, checking out Oberon Prime, especially with his recent rework. He's the latest frame to get the rework treatment, and I took a few weeks to let things calm down, do my own testing, wait for further changes, and then decided to just wait for the Prime to do the video on him. Oberon's a very unique frame in Warframe since he doesn't come from any bosses, any quests or anything like that. He actually just drops from literally any Xmas unit in the game. I mean, you're more often than not going to get him pretty much by accident just by playing the game. So much so that some people refer to him as cash frame or money frame. Last week though, he became the latest frame to get the Prime treatment, and the link to the drop locations are in the description below. Stats wise though, once you've managed to get a hold of all the parts, he's not really got anything that majorly stands out. 375 health at rank 30, 300 shields, 225 armor, which isn't terrible, and then a really nice energy amount of 262.5 at rank 30, which is actually joint second highest in the game. So as you can see, he's going to be very much a caster frame, and honestly his abilities show that as well. So before we go into the builds, let's take a look at those abilities. His first ability is Smite, where he's going to hit a target with an orb of light dealing 500 damage up to 50 meters away. It's going to inflict a radiation proc on the target as well as knocking them down. Once the target gets hit by Smite, it will split into 6 projectiles that will home in onto nearby targets, 12.5 meters away from the target that was initially hit, and that will deal 150 radiation damage each, plus 35% of the original target's maximum health and shield, and that is going to be divided between each of the orbs. These orbs are then going to stagger and are going to inflict a puncture proc on any further targets it hits. Now, all damages are going to be affected by power strength mods, however the 35% of the health and shields is not, and that's never going to change. The amount of projectiles that Smite will split into is actually also affected by power strength. The duration of the orb while it's homing is affected by duration mods, and then the range mods will affect how far those projectiles will go from the original target, as well as the range where you can actually cast the ability. As a first ability, Smite is actually pretty decent. 35% of the target's maximum health and shield means it's got a certain degree of scalability that a lot of first abilities do not have. Plus, that guaranteed radiation proc is something that is going to be useful at all levels. The puncture proc is one that, to be honest, I've never really felt the effects of. If it does reduce the enemy's outgoing damage, at the levels where it started to be needed, the damage outputs are really starting to be a bit crazy anyway. Honestly, it's very, very nice, but not something I find amazing. Although Smite is definitely a very, very solid first ability. As is his second ability, Hallowed Ground. Oberon's going to lay a 15 meter carpet on the floor, 180 degrees in front of him, and that's going to last 20 seconds. Any enemy stood on the carpet is going to be dealt 100 radiation damage per second, and also have a 15% chance to have a radiation proc applied to them. You and any allies that are stood on the carpet will not only be immune to any new status procs, but will also be cleansed of any that you already have applied to you. There are a few things that you're not immune to still though, like Leech Xmas, Energy Drain. Honestly, for the most part, it deals with anything nasty that wants to hit you with a status. This ability is affected by power strength, which will increase the damage done per second, the duration will affect the duration of it, and then the range will make an increase to the radius of it. But not just the radius of it, it will increase the angle around Oberon that it affects. There is a whole bunch of really ridiculous calculations here, but to make a full 360 degree carpet, you're going to need 234% power range to do it. It's honestly another really solid ability. It's actually pretty simple, to be honest. There's not a lot to it. However, it does have a bunch of synergies with the next two abilities, and I'm going to talk about those when I talk about those abilities. Hallowed Ground is infinitely castable, and the range is actually pretty solid at base. So lying down a couple of these, fighting on it is actually a decent option in some of the endless missions. I like it a lot, plus the radiation procs, they're going to proc often enough, and that's going to reduce incoming damage because the enemies around the edge are going to be busy fighting each other rather than you. I really like this ability. It's something I think is very, very strong and one that I use very, very often. The first ability though that actually synergizes well with Hallowed Ground is Renewal. Oberon's going to send out a healing pulse, similar to the way Nova's molecular prime works, and that's going to travel for 25 meters for 4 seconds, and is going to heal allies for 125 health when they're hit by the pulse. Oberon also gets a heal instantly. Any ally is also hit by the wave will also have 40 health per second health regen applied to them at the cost of having a drain over time for every ally affected by Renewal. That's 2 energy per second if it's only your Oberon, and an extra 3 energy per second per ally, and then 1 additional per second for every allied summoned unit like Necros' Shadows, for example. In addition to that, any ally with Renewal active on them will have their bleed out timer extended by 45%. Okay, so this ability is affected by quite a bit so far. Strength affects all the heals, the initial heal and then the heal over time. Duration affects the bleed out timer. The range affects the range of the pulse. So 3 different things affecting 3 different parts of the ability. But that's not where things end here. I've not even mentioned the synergy it has with Hallowed Ground, which is that if you or an ally with Renewal active on them stand on Hallowed Ground, you will get a bonus of 200 armor, and that is also affected by power strength. These armor buffs do stack as well, so if you have 4 Oberons, you can have 4 instances of the armor buff, although not 4 instances of the heal over time. So as you can see, this ability is actually pretty incredible. Medium-sized heals, heals over time, longer bleed outs, plus an armor bonus. When you combine it with Hallowed Ground, this is one heck of an ability. One thing I would recommend if you are playing with a Necros or 2, casting Renewal close to them is going to drain your energy so quickly it's not even funny. But a bit of advice, don't be that Oberon that tries to summon everybody to him. Don't go into the chat going, everyone get on me. If there is a friendly with Renewal on them and no armor buff, go to them, cast your Hallowed Ground under their feet, rather than being that guy that spends the next 2 minutes trying to type in chat to try and get them to you. Renewal is a seriously strong ability, and something I have running at all times. The ability to give a ton of healing over time to your entire team. It actually means you can be an Oberon, or you use an Oberon to completely negate the health loss from the toxin in Law of Retribution, for example, compared to what it used to be. And when combined with Phoenix Renewal, Renewal is a beast of an ability. His 4th and final ability is Reckoning. It's not quite as complicated as Renewal, thankfully. Oberon's going to lift any enemy in a 15 meter range and then slam them into the ground, dealing 1,250 pure radiation damage and applying a guaranteed radiation proc to them. Any enemy that's affected by a radiation proc already will take an additional 625 damage. Any enemy that dies to the ability will have a 50% chance of dropping a health orb, and any that don't will have been blinded by a flash of light for 4 seconds. The damage is all affected by power strength, range of the blind, and the range of the ability is going to be affected by range mods, and then the duration of the blind by duration mods. That's pretty much it for the base ability. There's not a lot to the base, apart from one more thing. Any enemy that is standing on Hallowed Ground when you cast the ability will have their armor permanently reduced by 30%, which is also affected by power strength. I am a big fan of this ability. The idea of taking any enemy in range, applying a radiation proc to them, it acts almost like a shield, since any enemy further out than them are going to shoot the radiation proc guys instead of you. But also potentially you're going to give yourself health orbs. Once the damage falls off, you've got the potential to completely strip enemy armor from them. That gives the ability so much potential as an early game nuke and a late game support, giving it some form of scalability. Combine Reckoning with a slow like M Prime, once they're knocked down, they're going to take forever to get back up again. It is an all-round pretty solid ability. But also, he's got a pretty handy passive for those of you that like your pet Kavats and Kubros. They also get an extra 25% health and shield, and then an extra 75 armor. In addition to those buffs there, they also get 1 instant revive per mission. So if you like your pets, then you are going to get a lot of use out of this passive. In terms of builds, I've got 2 main ones that I run with, my everyday build and my Smite Infusion build. The everyday one is Corrosive Projection, Cunning Drift for a little bit more range, Prime Flow for energy storage, Rage to turn health lost into energy, Vitality and Steel Fiber, that's all my survivability, Transient Fortitude and Power Drift as my power strength, Streamline is a little bit of efficiency, and then Phoenix Renewal. As an all-round build, this works pretty well without sacrificing too many of the other abilities for anything else. You've got very good survivability without going insane with the drain on Renewal. Phoenix Renewal is also going to help out your team massively. You've got 340 armor for everybody, 68 health per second for those that are hit by your Renewal, over 50% armor strip on your Reckoning as well. I mean, you could go higher with power strength if you want to, but you are going to nuke your efficiency, and you're just not going to be able to use all your abilities as often as you really want or honestly need to. But it's an option if you want to do that. You could switch out Transient for Blind Rage. You could even remove Phoenix Renewal for more power strength at the cost of not being quite as much use to your team. It's a little bit more of a selfish build, I would say, but it is definitely an option. There's a bit of room for personalising this build quite a bit, but for me, this build works just fine in everything I've put it through. The second build is the one I use for Smite Infusion. It's a combat focused build rather than being one to hide under a frost bubble. Corrosive Projection again the aura, Blind Rage, Intensify and Power Drift for power strength to buff the Smite Infusion augment, Vitality and either Quick Thinking or Steel Fiber for survivability, Prime Flow for energy storage, Prime Continuity for duration, and then Streamline for a little bit of efficiency. This build I've honestly found it to be super useful. I've used it a fair amount. It's a little tricky to keep Renewal going all the time, however juggling that plus keeping the infusion buff on people, honestly that's been so much fun, and actually I find it very effective. I've grown to like this build quite a bit, and it's something I'm going to be messing around with a whole lot more. So after all of this, the important question, especially with all the discussion going on since his rework, what do I think of Oberon and the rework? And you know what? I love it. I honestly don't understand where the hate for this rework is coming from. A scaling first ability with crowd control attached, AoE crowd control and status removal from his second. Combine that with Renewal, get an armor buff to everybody affected by Renewal and that go on your carpet. HP regen per second to anyone with a Renewal on them. Extended bleed out when you go down. Crowd control and armor stripping on your fourth ability. How can you not like this? It's kind of crazy. A well-built Oberon can take a pounding and still be left standing at the end of it. That HP regen and additional armor is a lifesaver to some squishier frames. I play a lot with people that use squishy frames. Being able to heal them constantly and to take less damage is an incredible team ability. Let's put it this way, since his rework, Oberon's actually made me put down Nyx and play him solidly instead. Those of you that know how much I like Nyx will know just how much this actually means if I'm willing to pick him instead of her. He has got so much incredible team support in so many different aspects of his playstyle. A good Oberon player is a huge asset to your team, and is no longer a frame that you see in your squad and kind of laugh at. Honestly though, he is so different to the way he was before. Even if you disliked him before the rework, give him another shot. I think you will be pleasantly surprised. So I hope you enjoyed my look at Oberon Prime after the Oberon rework. I've had so much fun with him. I've ended up playing him way too much instead of actually making the video. I hope though that this helps you get an understanding of him and that you'll give him a chance now. I find him to be so useful and a ton of fun to play. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for all the support on my videos, and I shall see you in the next one.